This is Sessions with Sara Cate and Ashley, a podcast that explores the feelings, emotions, and experiences of what it means to be human in this world. This podcast is intended for educational purposes only and is not meant to replace therapeutic services of any kind. Please refer to the list of references if you need support.
And before you dive in, please like, subscribe, comment, share with anyone you think might also connect with today's session. Our goal is to reach as many people as possible, and we are endlessly grateful for your continued support. So, let's get to it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It is Sara Cate from Sessions with Sara Cate and Ashley.
And Ashley.
And Ashley. We had Ashley, I should say, had the wonderful idea to revisit one of our most downloaded episodes for this week's drop. And that is the episode on imposter syndrome. And I think it's very aptly timed that she thought this would be a good idea because I myself am currently in a imposter syndrome sitch, if you will. And it just is amazing how, we can do our work and evolve and grow and still have to have conversations with our imposter and the critic and the story maybe of our not enoughness or not good enough or not smart enough, whatever that might be. So I think it's an interesting time for Ashley to have such a genius idea.
I mean, it always happens at the right time, right? But I think we're both in this place of like, there's some things happening. And one of the things that we have always wanted with this podcast was to like bring our authentic selves. And like, yeah, we're talking about these things, but it by no means means that like we also aren't still like learning about ourselves and adjusting and shifting. And when this imposter comes up, like Sara Cate just said, like we have to listen to it. We can't just try to silence it. We have to listen to it. We have to hear what it has to say, because that's how we're going to be able to move forward with support and with ourselves fully. And so we're re-releasing, first time we've ever done this. This is like kind of fun.
It is
Our very first episode. And I watched it and it's like, oh, that was our first episode for sure.
Yeah, it probably really feels like our
But
first episode.
it does. And it's so interesting, right? Because we had like episodes, I don't know, 1 through 4 or 5 already recorded, ready to go. And we recorded this episode the day we launched the podcast because we were like, hang on, no, we actually are going to launch with this because it just was what we were going through.
Oh,
and
right.
so it just is like, it's just such a good thing to revisit. And so here we are.
We thought maybe if we were both feeling like this was up for us, then that might be, and also because it was our most downloaded episode, it kind of feels like it resonates, right? Like I think it can resonate with anyone, anywhere in your journey, even when you've, let's say, quote unquote, established yourself. There's going to be new layers and new lessons in that. And I think it takes us back to that beginner's mindset. Like Ashley said, if we can I'm trying to do that right now. I'm trying to invite the critic in to find out that, it's my fear that's leading. And so then I know how to take care of myself in the fear, right? And we just have to learn how to, we don't have to love our critic. We don't have to love our imposter syndrome, but we should get to know it. So we know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, for sure. And every time, like we're coming at this from such a different place than where we were before, right? And that's one of the things that is always so fascinating to me. It's like we can talk to this imposter, this critic a million times, and every time we revisit it, we're starting from a different place. So just because your imposter is coming up doesn't mean you're in the exact same place you were then. You're coming at it from a completely different perspective. You have so much more life experience. Yeah. And when you listen to things over again, you might hear something a different way, or you hear something you didn't hear the first time. And so I think that that's so cool to be able to like just revisit some things because it is like, it's our most downloaded episode. And so, and the both of us are shifting. things.
Yes, we are.
And so I think that it's just really cool. And so we're excited to relaunch. And
Yeah.
as always, like, share, subscribe, send it to anybody who you think might help. And until next time with a fresh new topic,
Woo!
take care, stay
Mhm.
curious, and just see what that imposter and critic has to say.
Yeah. We'll see you
Okay.
next time.
Enjoy.
Enjoy. Hello, I am Sara Cate.
I'm Ashley.
And we are in a very few moments going to be launching our podcast. And you are listening to our podcast, but you have no idea who we are or why we're doing this podcast. And we decided to take a sharp left. And instead of launching episode 1 and 2, where you'll learn why we're doing this podcast, sessions with Sara Cate and Ashley, and who we are, in fact, we were feeling some mega imposter syndrome about actually launching this thing and putting it into the world. And so Ashley had the brilliant idea to do episode 0 and have an actual real conversation about imposter syndrome and sometimes how hard it is to navigate that, and what I believe about imposter syndrome is it stalls me. It really puts the brakes on for me. It helps me hide my head in the sand. I back away from the ideas or the dreams or the things that I want to create. Because of it. And it's like this really tricky little trickster to not allow us to actually step forward and be seen and use our voices and show up. So, yeah, I guess we just wanted to name like
that this is real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sara Cate. So is that how you would describe imposter syndrome to somebody who's like, well, what does that mean? When you say imposter syndrome, what does it mean? You said that it stalls you, it prevents you from like going for what you want, but what would you actually say imposter syndrome is to you?
I would say imposter syndrome is, to me, the feeling of being a fraud or the feeling of not being in my worth or my value. It's like, I actually can't do that. No, I shouldn't put my, I shouldn't put my hat in the ring. I shouldn't take a seat at that table. I don't belong there. It's a really strong sense. I don't even think of belonging to a group or a thing, but belonging to myself of like, I deserve to be there. And I have something to say.
So good.
And I mean, like, making this podcast with you has been one of the biggest expanders in that.
For sure.
Me.
It's been you're confronting it. We're both confronting this. It's one of those things where like, I always think about like, well, I could do that, but first I should do this, and this in order to be worthy of the seat at that table, or to think that like I have something to say, or that the knowledge I hold in this little noggin of mine is worth it.
This little noggin.
I actually have a pretty big head. Pretty big, like size head.
You can hide a lot of secrets under those curls.
That's why it's nice. You can't actually tell how large it is.
Totally. It's like if I do this, then I can. But then you're always doing that. Or you're not doing that. And you're saying, well, see, I didn't do that, so then therefore I can't.
You kind of make up excuses for yourself as you go, because it's like, no, I said I was going to do this first. And whether it's a course or like a certain amount of years of experience or whatever it is, a training with certain people, whatever it is, you can just stay stuck where you're at, and you will never move from there if you don't take a little bit of that scary step. And it's so, I mean, when I think of like taking a leap, you think of just like falling off the side of a cliff. But I think one of the things I've learned through this process, and has it helped to have Sara Cate here? Yes, 100%, because she's like,
we're in it together.
She is just magic. But no, don't laugh at that.
Sorry.
That's real.
Okay, I receive it.
But now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, But the thing that I've learned is, yeah, we both are feeling like we're like taking this leap where we're just diving off of the cliff. However, it's literally been one little step at a time. Like we haven't, and I think we've done this super intentionally. There's been no rush. There has been times where we've scheduled to record and one of us was like, I can't do it today. And it's not like, oh my gosh, like wait, we have to like hurry up and reschedule. It's like, cool, we'll just check back next week. You know, it's been just literally one little step at a time that has created like such a great shift altogether. Does that make sense? And that's been the coolest part about this experience, I think, is that imposter syndrome is real. And we're all going to feel it on different levels. One of the things that we also talked about, which I think goes into this in part of like, do I have something to say or is my knowledge worth it? Is we literally both said to each other, I trust your voice.
More than mine.
Yes, more than my own, which is, again, it's so nice to have somebody in this with you. But like when you then step back and think about that, well, why don't I trust my own voice as much as I trust somebody else's? It's like, where are we moving further away from ourselves? Yeah. You know, and having a partner in this, it's really cool because it helps you kind of come back because they're there to give you support and encouragement. But it's ultimately each of us doing our own work to show up together to present this.
Yeah. 100. I mean, you speak so eloquently of that process of really trying to, we've tried at all junctures to not quiet the imposter syndrome, not shame the imposter syndrome, not shut it down, which I think our third or maybe so episode is on shame. So that'll be a treat for you. But to not shame that part of ourselves that has the fear. Because imposter syndrome is just really driven from a place of fear, of being exposed, vulnerable, I'm not enough, all of those gnarly feelings of. And as we've done it slowly, to your point, and intentionally, that the imposter hasn't been able to take over. I think we both felt it rearing up as we were about to put this shit into the world. It's not shit, it's really good stuff, but
it's not shit.
But it started to really kind of get louder and louder and louder as we were getting closer and closer and closer to this day. And I think, your brilliant idea to do this episode 0 and speak about this, because the whole thing that Ashley and I have wanted to express is our humanity and create space to support being human and those difficult, uncomfortable things that come along with that. And this is one of them. And so we're sitting here with a podcast. Ashley made some incredible images and pictures she is just a little computer whiz over here. But
I'm not
to some degree, this is being held together with rubber bands and Elmer's glue and popsicle sticks. This is not a production. This is not a thing. We're sitting here with just information that we feel in our body that we want to share. And so the imposter comes in and says, don't do it. Other people got it better. Look at their fancy, shiny microphones. Ours doesn't even work.
We bought
you will see it. You will see it. It's just not doing anything.
And we can't figure it out.
So the reality is I think rather than it being just do it. Kind of cheerleading moment. But if there's something in your life that you are sitting with, and it is the imposters coming in and just trying to slam that door shut, don't look 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 6 months down the road. What in this moment are you doing? And in this moment, we're going to launch this mother effing podcast. And it has been little teeny step after little teeny step after little teeny step to get here. And, our hope and intention as we launch this thing is that it finds you where you're at. And if this is finding you, the encouragement is just do one thing. Just do one teeny tiny little thing.
There's so much pressure, I feel to being business owners, there's so much pressure to always have like your goals written out, like pretty little pearls. And the reality is, I'm not saying like don't have goals, but like the reality is those shift so much. And you have no way of knowing what the next step is going to be until you've taken the step. Right. And so we get so hung up on, and this is where like, okay, but I wrote down that I have to do this first and this first and this first. And what can happen is you miss something along the way. And so it's interesting because we've been talking about this for a long time, a really, really, really long time. Could we have launched this a long time ago? 100%. Do I feel like ultimately things happened how they were supposed to happen? Yes. However, if we just allow ourselves to be a bit more open to the fact that it is just like one step, then we might not have this big, huge rush of anxiety or whatever it is.
Whatever shows up.
When you're presented with something, or when something inside of you is really pinging you like, hey, this is it. Go after this. This is what you want. This is where we want to go. You might not miss it so much. And you might not be thinking like, okay, now I have to do this because I didn't do that before. And like, blah, 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 blah. So I think, it's just.
Well, I think Ashley, what I love that you're speaking to is the fact that we will miss out on actual parts of our life if we don't allow it to have an organic path.
Right. Totally.
And now, mind you, we're going to talk about trauma on this podcast. We're going to talk about crisis situations. So like when we are in crisis states or when our agency or choice is taken, it is hard to do all of this, right? Like we're in a moment where we can do this clearly and without a lot of barriers. So we are talking about a different kind of things, but when what you're speaking to is the evolution of a person into who they are. And we, Ashley and I, both have evolved our businesses, have evolved our practices, and we've taken left turns and right turns, and I still am like, sometimes I'm like, this is what I get to do. This is who I am. And it's true. I've had to build my resilience and my capacity to trust my voice and who I am in the world bit by bit, piece by piece. And if anything, and what I'm feeling in my body right now as we're talking is just this really strong, almost like my spine is kind of like lengthening. And I feel this sense of like, use the imposter to be the motivator.
Yeah.
Like use that energy of fear as an energy of action.
Yeah.
And that's, cause like, we're not going to let the imposter stop us from posting this. Like, we're just not, we're going to put this stuff up there and it's going to be out there. And then, then shit, it's out there.
Well,
but it's like, how do we use that? How do we transmute that energy?
And without action. And so this is one of the things, like when we were talking about like staying stuck or like, you have to do this and this and this, you might be thinking you're taking action because you're like taking another course or you're getting more education or you're practicing or whatever it is. But if you don't take action towards the actual place that you want to get to, that's when you stay stuck. And I have, like she said, we're learning to trust our voice, like step little by little, piece by piece. I mean, my whole career has been that. My whole career has been, hey, but you should do this because you got this education. And people are expecting you to do this because you did this, right? But it was like, finally, when you take that left turn, it might, and I don't even know that it's a left turn to me. It's a left turn to everybody else.
Right.
It's a left
your
turn.
path.
Yes. It's a left turn to the people who think that I should be in a certain place or say certain things or be a certain way or whatever it is. But to me, it's like, oh, thank God. I'm finally off of that path. I'm finally back towards me. So to me, it doesn't feel like a left-hand turn. It feels like, oh, I'm back home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and even though sometimes it is so uncomfortable and I come home and I'm like, well, shit, maybe I should just quit.
Maybe I should just you know, there are moments where it's like, maybe I should just follow it. Maybe
Yep.
I should just do it how
Yep.
it's supposed to be done.
Yep.
I'll
Yeah.
play the game.
Yep. Totally. I mean, I literally have thought that so much, especially since the start of the year. But as uncomfortable as it is to take the perceived left-hand turn from everybody else, it is so much more comfortable to be me. It is so much better to like go to sleep at night knowing like, okay, do I wish that like certain things would move along faster? 100%. Do I wish that I didn't have as many times of questioning my voice? For sure. However, the rewards from letting myself move through that have by far surpassed anything that I could have predicted for this time.
Yeah. And Ashley, do you think that it is easier? Because I know it's more uncomfortable to not go with the grain and not follow suit. But who you get to be then for your clients and the programs that you create, do you find that then your voice, the authenticity of your voice is easier to let come through?
Yes. 100%.
Right? Like it's all like there's less, like while there's constriction in saying I'm gonna do something different, there's this, to me, massive liberation then to just speak from that place of authenticity, to just use my genuine voice. And in this space, like on this podcast, we use who we are. Like we're not these robots or, you know, that like are just gonna send out this information. We're very much ourselves in this and very human in this. And it comes from such a place of genuine care and offering. But because we feel like we're doing it a little bit differently, we're not doing it scripted and structured and organized. But what we have felt come through in this so much in all the episodes we've recorded is just this really ease-filled offering and sharing. With information we're so incredibly passionate about. And I think that's where the imposter loses some of its hold and some of its strength for me is when I go back to like, if I am authentic and genuine and I put authentic, genuine offering into the world, the way it gets to be received is going to be so different than if I'm here trying to be some sort of expert, you know, like uber professional. You know, it's just not me. It's just not my way. And so I think even for me, like all the talking through this is my therapy works, but talking through this, the imposter, like to me is like, has so left the building.
I know as soon as you said like the authenticity like comes through and I show up, I felt like this huge sense of like calm because we're coming from a place of like, if people just could connect into this, if people just knew this information. And then unfortunately in our current society, we still have to do way too much advocacy for ourselves to be able to even know that this kind of stuff is out there.
Right.
It is we
don't have access to it.
And we don't have, and certain groups of people really don't have access to it. And so just by reminding myself of like, hey, you're doing this not for you. You're not doing this to like, what am I learning stuff about myself along the way? 100%. But it's not for me. It's about putting this information into the world so that if one person finds some kind of connection to it, like that is enough, because then that person is going to affect somebody else. And then that person is going to affect somebody else. It's the only way we create a ripple effect. Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's so true. My nervous system totally shifted.
Well, look at that.
Great work. So you don't know who we are or why we're talking about this shit, but you'll learn in episode 1 and 2, which will also be released. But this is episode 0. And again, we just, you know, are trucking along with a couple wheels that are a little wobbly. And so we thought we would do it a little differently.
Yeah.
And we hope that, again, that this finds you where you are, and that if you are resonating with this and there is something in your life that you're like, I want to try and I'm scared, or I've started, but I don't know, I got stuck, you know, here's your little nudge, your little encouragement from the universe, kind of just gently reminding you that like, we all feel it. This is universal. Every single person. I work with everybody in all fields, and it is a generalized experience to say, oh God, at some point, am I worthy of this?
Yep.
Should I do this? Can I do this?
Yeah.
So like, know that you're not alone. That's why we've created this space, as we want to normalize and acknowledge the uncomfortable and difficult experiences in life, and help create support for that. So we can't wait for you to journey with us.
Yes.
If you're
welcome.
still wanting to.
It's fun, I promise. Okay, well, welcome.
Welcome to
Sessions with Sara Cate Ashley. We will see ya for real on episode 1. Bye.